Hey everyone, this is day one of a project that might take a little bit of time. So last year I made a video making a whole bunch of little frog hatcheries. This is one of them. It proved to be very small. The pond always had to be flushed out with the hose, and we're going to solve a lot of those problems. So the problem with this thing was when you had to flush it with the hose, the tiny little tadpoles, even with the smallest trickle, they would just up and over the edge and get lost in the grass. Even if you had it trickling so little, it wasn't even like there was flow coming out. They would just get up on the lip of that pond, swim over there into little crevices, and they wouldn't come back in. Tonight's very cold, and last night was very cold, obviously. Look at the ice. It's now April 26th, 2023. It got down to 18 degrees last night. Unseasonably cold. We'll do it again 2 more nights. Then there's not a single frost in the forecast after that. So another thing I want to do as far as the tadpoles not getting out, I want to add a little tiny pipe that's coming in with a little elbow with a screen slightly below the lip so all the water goes down a little spillway. We have a little bit of elevation to do that. And we're going to replace this 30-gallon pond with a gigantic 300-gallon pond over here. See, it is pretty big. It's a giant drinking bowl for horses and stuff. We're going to put that in here, so it's going to be 10 times bigger, I believe. Am I doing that math right? This right here is where a solar panel sat last year to run a little solar pump to keep the water circulating. We always put these screens in here hanging over in case the water level drops down, things like frogs can get out. But now at this point, there's so much draping grass. The cattails really took over. Hopefully in the deeper pond, they still survive water that deep. Maybe we'll build a shelf in there with an underwater pot to accommodate them. And obviously their roots can grow down into the deeper water if they choose to. So first, we got to break that ice, drain this one out, and try to get it unstuck out of here. It's probably stuck down in the mud in the ground. So the plan is we're going to get this giant one in here. Hopefully we don't hit any rocks because up north like this we have, look what I got right here. This rock right here is probably the size of a car. You have no idea how big these rocks can be underground. So what my plan is today, I'm going to go ahead and pull this up out of the ground. We're going to attempt, I'm hoping I can dig the hole, get this thing set in place all in one day. And if we look over here at the new 300-gallon, it has a drain plug, because usually this would be sitting in a horse pen or something for drinking. And you can just unscrew this and let all the water out. This is obviously going to be buried way below ground. I want to buy the same sort of plug with a gasket on both sides so it doesn't leak. We're going to drill a hole closer up top, and I'm going to build that little spillway I talked about running off the hill. So, that being said, we're going to get to work. And now this is going to create a lot of overburden. All this dirt coming out of the hole, I plan on, we're going to put it on a tarp so we don't mess up the grass. We don't have to rake it out as much. It might be sitting there for an extended amount of time. This time of year, the grass is just coming out of hibernation. Even if the pile had to sit here for like a week, I don't really think it's going to kill the grass. So a lot of that, the reason I'm not going to just put it into the wheelbarrow and truck it off and dump it in the woods or something is because I might use it. Once I build this pond, I might use the overburden to build a little mountain with a little waterfall going down into it that we can plant grass. All the grass around here, I'm going to save all the grass we pull out because I can use that to apply to our artificial hill. And then I'm going to plant grass seed around the edges, get it growing in just like that. And that round one I just bought is going to be better than this oval. It'll look a little more natural once grass starts to drape in it over the summertime. I also have a hosta plant over here. That's just an obstacle I have to mow around. See, the hosta is just starting to pop up out of the ground. I think I'm going to cut this into a bunch of slices, breaking it up, maybe planting that around the edge of the pond. We'll see. Instead of a waterfall, I also might, when the big pond's in the ground, put this one above ground, build up a little hill with the overburden around it to kind of hide it. Once that grows in, it'll be kind of cool. And I could also buy another one of those little plug, one of those barrel plugs, I think is what you call it, which could drain into a trough down into there. We'll figure it out once we get this thing in the ground. So this pond is the only pond, for some reason, frogs didn't come back to. About a week ago, the giant pond I have, the other small ponds, the frogs we relocated last year came back to them again to lay their new eggs. So I didn't even have to bring eggs in, save them from the drainage ditch this year. The frogs came and laid them themselves, thousands of eggs here on the property. They came right back to their original birthplace. So once this big one's built, hopefully we'll relocate new frogs from the drainage ditches, which usually dry up where they leave their eggs. Also, instead of going solar with this fountain, if I wanted something that runs all night, notice there's a plug in the background. Well, that thing is either rotten, been hit by a car, it just moves too much. I'm sure it's broken underground, so I have that breaker shut off. Another day, I also want to dig down. I don't know how deep that piece of electrical pipe goes. If it's up to code, it's going to be a little bit of a project. Otherwise, it might be shallow. I don't know. We got to dig down to that. And we're going to have to do some repairs, I'm sure, on that. But there is electrical potential there if I wanted a more powerful waterfall or fountain on this thing. At some point, I could dig that up and redo the underground electrical. Hopefully nothing's too collapsed. All right, everyone, I've been doing this now for about 45 minutes and my arms are really sore, but the hole's half done. A lot more overburdened than I thought. Filled up 2 small tarps now. I think I'm gonna get a 3rd one to lay out here just to save the grass. It's good to have piles all around it. It helps push it around and pack it down the sides. You see, I already brought out a tamper. Once we get this thing completely dug, I'm gonna tamp the bottom, make sure it's nice and flat, as accurate as possible with a level. Now I'm taking like a 5-10 minute break. I want to regain my energy and hopefully get that rock out of the hole. If I can't, I might have to carve a little ramp. That thing's heavy. I'm just glad it's something movable. Hopefully we don't hit another. Where that rock came out of is about as deep as this thing needs to get, so I'd say we're slightly more than halfway. Thankfully, the soil's pretty easy to dig. I'm pretty sure this area of the yard was engineered when they built the house, probably Phil brought in. Because my yard, if anyone's seen my woods videos, is pretty swampy. High water table. The house is built up quite a bit. I think they brought a bunch of sand in, as you're seeing. A good foot of rich topsoil, which we already broke through. There's a few layers of rust in there. And a couple giant rocks. Hopefully that's the only monster rock we find. We found a couple others. This one right here is about the size of my boot. Can you even see that with the shadow? I can barely see my phone screen. We also found this. It's not mine. That was buried in there. We also found, coming out here, this electrical cord buried. At first I was like, oh no, did they splice that in underground? But no, we found the other end of it. Sorry about my shadows of walking around. It's a bad sun angle at the moment. So I don't know if you can tell how deep this hole is so far, but see, compared to my boot, probably 2 feet there in the deepest spot. And I think that's about how deep we need to get the hole. Once we get this thing carved out a little, I'm going to try to place it in here, make sure everything's perfect. But if you notice, I used marking spray paint to make the hole pretty nice. All right, I got to go take a little break and have something to drink. And we'll try to get that big rock out of the hole. All right, everyone, I'm back from the store. I'm going to show you a little bit of my plans. I bought some cinder blocks here because I'm going to have a raised area with the plants just in case the water's a little too deep for cattails, or I might not put the cattails in the pond at all. So what I have here is I bought this part here, which is very similar to what I showed at the beginning of the video, but that's on the bottom of this, which will never get used since it's in the ground. So I'm going to put another one of these in here. I'm going to drill a hole maybe about here or so, not too far down, but that'll allow us to put water in and it'll spill out of here. It'll never overflow. I'm going to have it just maybe an inch below the top. Got the drill bits, got the PVC cement. I got these parts here and the drain. I'm going to do something pretty cool. You'll see at the end of the video what I do with that. If this thing looks a little crooked, it's not. I used the level. It's because this side's slightly above the ground and that's a bit under the ground because we're on a hill. So I bought this thing back here. Should I sink it down in the ground? I actually want to build a little hill with all the overburden. And I was thinking at some point I should dig down and fix this. Although I don't want to do that right now. I'll maybe save that as a summer project, dig this whole thing up. I think I'm just going to replace the GFCI. Actually, I'm thinking about putting a plug in here that's not even a GFCI. And I'm going to go into the house where this line goes in, and I'm going to GFCI protect the entire thing in case there's a broken wire in the ground. It'll still shut off the same way. You can have one GFCI and link a bunch of regular plugs to it and they'll be protected the same way. So I'm also have this thing in the back. I have tubes that'll all be buried inside the hill here, so it'll have a little waterfall. And I like the height because this, when you build a pond, is supposed to be sitting down here, so it just gradually goes in. But I want a big, loud splash. That'll really help with aeration. And I believe they had a pond here before I bought this property. I believe this is what this is, buried in the ground. Not a bad idea, honestly. Every damage mark on it is from me hitting it with the shovel. It lasted years. It's not code, but it worked. All right. And I saved a bunch of these rocks. Once I build this hill, I'll use a bunch of rocks to make it look better, put the smaller rocks inside there like gravel. I'm not going to put a ton of mud in here to support the plants like the other pond. It won't have anything in the bottom like a ton of sludge. It'll naturally occur over time, but for now I'm going to put some cinder blocks in there to like hold up the drain structure, and a couple more to hold maybe these baskets, which I will put the plants in. So they're up a little bit, they'll have sludge in the baskets, and that'll also prevent it from taking over the entire pond. I'll probably put lily pads at some point. So let's get to work. I gotta dig a little trench. That'll be easy after what I just dug. All right, I dug a little trench here. It's not the best place it's coming out. I have to continue it sometime. More pipe. I'm gonna need to go around this big rock here, a couple 45-degree angles. That's a issue for another day. I'm just trying to get this thing done so I can at least get it filled. My goal is just to get rid of all this overburden that I don't need for the hill. So, had to go to the store. This happens to me every time I decide to do a PVC project. The glue from last time is never good. I cut it open, hoping I could find some good glue underneath that crust. Nope, none of it's good. Had to go get some. Instead of using the blue stuff, I got the clear stuff. It'll look a little bit better. But everything I put in here, including the white pipe, including the cinder blocks, eventually it's going to turn green or brown. It's going to get dirty in here. And that's what the frogs and animals like. They like when it becomes dirty and natural. I'm not going to be keeping it clean. So once I'm done cutting, I'm going to sweep out all the plastic shavings in here before we start filling it. Once I'm done with this drain system, I'm gonna begin filling it as I work on other projects. All right, everyone, it's starting to get dark now. I can't believe I got this thing set in one day. It's pretty straight. It was perfectly straight before I started filling it, but as it filled up, it became very, very heavy. Shifted a little bit. It won't matter though. Once the grass grows in around it and starts draping over, you won't be able to tell. So this thing right here worked out. This thing's sitting good. I take that off. I might actually just take chicken wire, bend it around the edges, have really small screen so no tadpoles will go down that drain. You see, I have a reducer. All I could find was a T with a little offshoot, so the bottom of it has a cap and small pipe. Only reason I did that is because the part going through the barrel, that's the biggest pipe they had for that at the store today, but that's okay. The overflow works good. Put the soil back here. I'm gonna go back to the store. I'm gonna extend that, get a 45, another 45 to go around that rock. Just let it drain into the hosta plants right there. Speaking of hosta plants, this dirt area is gonna be hostas. I broke up this big one here, patched the hole. This is all gonna be hostas draping over the waterfall with grass around there. I think all this sod is gonna take off. That's for a solar panel. I think I'm gonna have a solar pump slowly feeding this, just a little trickle. The same solar pumps as last year. I can buy really, really big solar pumps, and I might look into that. I might return the electric pump today. I don't know if I want to do that. I think I'm gonna just get a really big solar pump. Don't have to worry about mosquitoes either if anyone's thinking that, because tadpoles and frogs love eating mosquitoes. Found that cool brick in the ground. I thought this shower drain kind of looked cool, but it's not sitting correctly in there, and it was leaking a little bit underneath this into there. It's fine for it to do that, but not in this situation. So I'm going to cut like half of this off so it can just sit in there a little lower. That's what I think I'm going to do, or heat this part up really hot and just melt it down in there. And I'm going to just cut it. But that looks good. Right there's cattails. They're contained to a little basket. I think this water's a little too deep for them to grow. I'm going to buy another basket, fill it with dirt like that, sink it all the way to the bottom, hopefully put some lily pads in there. I don't think the store is selling lily pads yet. It's still a little bit too cold. Our growing season doesn't start for another month, technically. But it looks like it's going to be very warm in the forecast afterwards. So what did I do with 300 gallons of dirt? And all this I swept it. It'll grow in really quickly once the grass starts greening up. Tried to use my old rake I used to do storm drains with. It is actually broken, so I use that one. I'm patching holes. Any little dips in the yard, we're patching holes everywhere. This was a bigger hole. I think with active groundwater, it removes sediment from under the ground, so you get all these random sinkholes. I didn't mind the dip in the trail, but had to get rid of the dirt, so I'm going to buy some grass seed, sprinkle it on there, rake it in, water it once, and just ignore it. There's enough rain in the forecast. I probably won't have to touch it again. And there's the pallet house in the background. And the old pond I'm just going to leave here. I dragged it over here with most of its mud. Those cattails are still active. Maybe they'll grow. Maybe this part of the yard doesn't get enough sun. I'm not sure. But the silver one did not work out last year. You can see too good in there. I think predators picked them all off. But the dark black ponds, you can't see anything down there, so it's easy for the things to hide. That's why I wanted that one to be deeper. Things can hide. And that's what I did with the rocks for now. I didn't know what to do with them. This one I drilled a little hole with a filter so the tadpoles don't come out when I flush it. Might do the same with that. We'll see. But now I have these things to stock too. We're going to go out tonight or tomorrow night and save a bunch of tadpole eggs from the drainage ditches. Stock these ponds. I'm going to let it sit for at least a couple hours, let all that sediment dip on down. But I wanted to show everyone this before it gets dark, because I'm going to go back out to the store. I need a few more PVC parts, a few more parts to get that GFCI plug working. I don't even know if I'm going to use that. I'm pretty sure I'm going to return that pump and maybe get just a really big capacity solar pump. Most of the solar pumps I buy are like only $30 for these ponds. It just keeps it aerated for the most part, but they do have like $200 solar pumps that have the capacity of a garden hose. They even have ones that have the capacity of a fire hydrant, 2-inch hose, but you don't want to know the price of that one. Alrighty everyone, I'm back from the store. I'm filling up the sink right now because I'm about to change the wells filter. The water pressure in the house starts to get a little bit low, so I have to go change a filter in the other room. And a couple times I forgot there's no water when I'm taking that apart, and I have to clean out like the canister that holds the filter cartridge. So this is what this water is for, to scrub that thing out. Right now I'm looking at all my solar equipment from last year because I'm about to set it back up. There's a couple of frosts in the forecast, but that's not going to affect anything unless it's extremely cold out. And I've left a lot of this equipment out during deep freezes, and none of it breaks. It's pretty reliable. So, in my experience, these ones, for the price, work pretty well. These things range anywhere from $15 that don't have a battery backup, no lights, just a basic daytime fountain. And there's this one. This one has a battery backup and it has lights. This is a more high quality one. It has these little sticks so it doesn't get close enough to the edge to squirt water out of the pond. And it usually comes with dozens of different nozzles to choose from. These ones with the battery, they seem to die. But the cheaper ones that are $15, they last a long time because there's no battery, anything to go bad. This right here does have a battery backup, works pretty well. This is a fairly inexpensive, maybe $30 solar air compressor, air pump. This long wire goes to a very expensive solar air pump. That's what the big solar panel there is for. This works very good. It has a lot of air stone options. We use this in the big pond. It's very, very powerful when the sun's on that panel during full sun. It even works on cloudy days. But on cloudy days, it'll often run for 20 seconds, shut off, turn back on, shut off, which is a lot of wear and tear. But it lasted a whole summer doing that. That big pond I have is basically in the shade most of the time. And these smaller solar panels go to these pumps, which are pretty powerful. You don't have to have it floating as a fountain. You could put a hose on that and stick it to the side. It can be a small fountain pump. Or it has the styrofoam thing. It floats around. You can put nozzles on it. I don't use nozzles on this because they clog up very often with debris. I just have the stuff to move water around, keep it a little fresher. There's a whole bunch more of them in there. Yeah, bunch of those. Those things work good. That's why I bought a bunch of them. This one's the panel is smaller, but somehow this solar panel is more powerful than these. I didn't notice a difference at all in slightly different wattage. Well, I just ordered a solar pump on Amazon. It'll be here next week. I'll make a video update when it does show up. That one is 400 gallons per hour. That's how fast it can pump. That's pretty good. So that fountain's going to be going full blast. That was about $200, like I said. They also had very powerful ones that are like 1,200 gallons an hour for 500. It's just overkill. It does not need to be going that fast, but I love the pump the power head I just bought on Amazon with the solar system because it's got teeny little holes. It looks really big, which means I don't think I have to put a sponge around it to make sure tadpoles don't get stuck against it. I might still have to do it, but we'll see. All right, we're outside. I just bought another 10 feet of pipe. Earlier, I bought 5 feet of pipe. Wasn't enough. I didn't know how this thing was going to turn out at first, so my original plans did not work out. And I wish I knew at the time, this 10-foot piece of pipe was actually on sale. It was less money than the 5-foot piece. Anyways, I'm going to have to get a headlamp. I'm going to tap onto that, go to here, 45 degree, here, 45 degree. It's not buried very deep. It's just an overflow for the pond. I got to do this because this stuff, you're not supposed to use PVC glue when it starts getting cold out. It's almost to the freezing mark. But it don't matter if it has little leaks here and there outside the pond. It just better not have leaks in the pond where it'll slowly start draining. The water's starting to clear up. And I think we're going to go for a little walk tonight to the drainage ditch. Try to save a bunch of frog eggs. So I think tomorrow I'm going to set up maybe a small fountain in here for the time being. Then we will use this more powerful one later. I'm not cutting the hoses or anything yet, just because I don't know where I want to put this power head I just bought. And I put the screen back right there so small creatures can get out of it if this pond, for whatever reason, was at like half capacity or something, just sitting in the sun. If I wasn't home evaporating, it would have to be pretty dry for that. The Home Depot, Lowe's, Tractor Supply, none of them have a they're not selling aquatic plants yet. So eventually, I bought another basket right here. I'll fill with mud and stuff. Plant the bulbs for the lily pads and drop that into the bottom of the pond. Lily pads can deal with this much deeper water, and I like the little spillway thing. That's going to be modified some other day, not right now. The grass I think is going to grow in really nice. I bought grass seed. I'm going to get a headlamp and we'll do some work with that in the areas I patched. Don't need any grass seed around the pond. This grass will eventually pop back up. Still spring. Give it a month. I think this thing is just going to look beautiful. And I did purposely make that thing tall. I want the waterfall to spill quite a bit. And I bet that grass right around the waterfall will love that constant misting on it. And we're going to see how that works out. Yeah, because usually you'd sink that in the pond too, so that's basically level with this or slightly elevated. I also thought about putting that back there and buying a pond river liner and having a little stream go into it, but it can always be modified in the future. For now, we got this done. 300 gallons of capacity. We can get a lot of tadpoles in here to save them. And once that fountain, that's a lot of aeration. That'll help keep the water nice and fresh. Once those start growing, the cattails are really good at cleaning water. That's why they always put them around retention ponds of parking lots. They're good at absorbing oils and other things. And this big pond insert did not fit in the back of my truck. I got my truck set up for travel and stuff, so it would not fit in there. So I tied this down to the top of my car, and Tractor Supply thought I was crazy for ratchet strapping this to the roof, but not a single problem. I just kept it at 20 miles an hour and drove home in the evening when there was no one on the road. I only had to pull over for 3 people to pass me, but it worked out. I just ratchet strapped this big thing to the roof. All right, we got it done. It's all going at a small incline. Got a coupling, 45, 45, 45, and then it just trickles down there into the garden. I'm sure this hosta plant here will love this because I'll be flushing out a bunch of nasty water every time it gets a little bit polluted by the tadpoles. And that's also good for plants, flushing out all that pollution. Now I'm just going to backfill this little trench a little bit, especially where I mow. Right there doesn't really matter. I'm going to put the rock wall back over that. First, let's test it. Let's push it down a little bit. There we go. All right, that's buried nicely. All right, I've put down all the grass seed, raked it in real nice, and now I was going to go ahead and water it. And I noticed this. It's on full blast at the house. The hose is frozen already, and the sun has only been down for about 2 hours. Okay, I'm going to leave it trickling. It's either eventually going to melt itself out, or it's going to freeze up before the warm water entering the hose gets here. Let's be hopeful. I want to spray all that down. The grass is actually getting frosty and frozen. But there's only a couple more cold nights in the forecast. I'm hoping I can get this because I want to clean off my tools. If not, I'll have to wait until the morning. I'm going to leave this thing trickling. Hopefully I come back to it blasting in a few minutes. I think this looks kind of nice. I put some solar lights around it that I just picked up at the dollar store. Dollar store ones seem to last quite a while. I leave them out in these really hard winters and they keep on going, these cheap little lights. Got a couple little spotlights. They're doing pretty nice, especially when the water will eventually clear up. I bought them to aim at the waterfall, then I forgot. I'm probably going to end up having it being a daytime waterfall only with the solar system. So it is getting kind of cold, a little too cold to be wearing what I'm wearing. So I think I'm going to change that. It's now been 20 minutes. It's still trickling a little, but not unfreezing. Here's the filter I was talking about. I'm going to go ahead and change that right now. Alright, threw the filter out. And dump that out in the toilet. And that right there I clean out in this water. Alright, water back on. We shut this one off so the house doesn't drain back down into it. This is a bypass, just in case you wanted to use the water without it. Don't recommend that. It'll wreck things in your house, the sediment going through it. Although it's not really that bad. And this right here is a valve in itself going there. Or to go into here. Let's fill it up. Check it for leaks. And I'll come back in here later just to make sure there's no leaks. And now every faucet in the house is going to make a scary hiss when that air gets to it. Last year, I installed this right here because I wanted an outdoor faucet that won't clog up my filter. I don't care about sediment going into my vegetable garden or frog ponds. So right here, we'll turn that on soon. I'm not using this one at the moment because it's not freeze proof outside. And in the fall, what you do is you remove this little thing, go outside, put your mouth on the faucet and blow it in, empties the water, you put this little thing back on. Can you hear the air bubbles coming through the pipe? It's actually not that violent sounding today. So this right here is my most popular pond for the frogs. It's now very cold, so they temporarily went back into hibernation, but look at this. They laid hundreds of eggs here, and those smaller sacs are salamanders, the spotted salamander. So they laid a lot of eggs. These frogs came back naturally because I brought them here. They were born here out of the egg, and they will always be coming back here. So I think ice is starting to form on the surface. So, is my little solar pump for this waterfall working? Don't know yet. I haven't been looking at it. We gotta check these fountains that we've been leaving out. If it is working, I'll sure be happy. That was a $5 solar pump. It just trickles through the moss as a filtration system. It was 15 bucks and it lasted 2 winters so far. If it died, oh well, it definitely good money spent. Yeah, the frogs like this one actually better than the big pond, probably because this one has the most sun, but the new pond is 100% full sun. I gave up tonight on defrosting the hose. We'll just water the grass seed in the morning. Won't really matter. Now let's go get some frog eggs to stock that pond. The biological cycle will start pretty quickly in the next few weeks. All right, everyone, on the side of the highway, this has always been the best spot. And the good news is it looks like this area is slowly being less water every year. Not really a good thing, but I'm saying as far as the frogs accidentally leaving their eggs in a place that dries up. And I think I've taken enough eggs now that not many frogs are actually being born here. So that's a good thing, because this will dry up as soon as the weather gets a little hotter. Yeah, look at this. This is an egg sac right here. Ooh, what are those tiny little things swimming? You see that? Oh my gosh. They're mosquito larvae, but there's also very tiny things. So these are frog eggs. The ones on top are dead, but if we flip it, there's a couple that I think are still alive on the bottom. So let's try to, nice, to grab the whole sack. Now, some of those, yes, some of them are alive. They're even turning into little tadpoles. They're no longer just a black dot. Yeah, I gotta break this piece of grass. They always anchor it to something. So yeah, some of those are alive, some are dead. The good news is we got the whole sack. One of them might be alive on that. Okay, we gotta get a little bit of water. We gotta look for more egg sacs. So this has dried up a little bit since they were laid. Okay, more egg sacs, half dead. More egg sacs, half dead. Yeah, you see the water has dropped since these eggs were put here, and there's a bunch of them that are dying because of that. Let's grab a little bit of water and take as many as we can. One time we came here, there was so many eggs, we literally were able to fill the bucket with just eggs. I'm looking around. Don't see any more here, but we're definitely still rescuing close to 1,000 frogs with just those few egg sacs. Areas like this are too dried up. I think just about everything would be dead, but I don't see any there. When frogs mate, they usually do it in one centralized area. So Let's go ahead and grab all these real quick. I'm going to do it off camera because I need both hands. And I don't think there's any more, but I'll check all these little puddles back there too. All right, everyone, I'm back. There's one more drainage ditch I'm going to go back and check, but I want to drop these ones off first. I also took some nice looking aquatic moss, which I know will spread very quickly up in these areas here. I should put it over here where the current won't be too much. That'll take over a lot. And some of the frog eggs that were dead really stink. But see, the ones that have white in them are dead, but these ones are still very much alive. And here's more of that moss. Let's see what else we got. These ones are mostly alive. There was a couple sacks over there that were completely dead. Like they just infected the other ones. All right, let's dump the rest of that in there. Good. We didn't find that much, so I'm not gonna put them in the tiny pond that we pulled out of here, which is now above ground. For that amount of eggs, this thing should be able to handle it. But we're gonna go see right now if we can go find possibly some more at a different ditch. All right, everyone, here's a culvert next to the highway, maybe about a 15-minute walk from the house. It's got a good amount of water in it. This culvert is trickling. Doesn't trickle in the summer usually, but they also sometimes lay frog eggs in here. What I learned is most of these frogs that we're catching are wood frogs. They're kind of like a toad. So once they hatch, they hop away into the woods. They don't stick around water like most frogs. They're more like a toad. And I also witnessed over the years, you'll see in my videos, I also have some green frogs and bullfrogs that hang out at the ponds. Those guys tend to lay their eggs more in the summer months. So these things like this are already dried up. So they don't accidentally lay them in stupid spots. Looking around for those egg sacs. The water here is quite deep. Is that? Ooh. That's a bigger tadpole. That's like a green frog or something. That one survived the winter. So this mustn't have dried up last year. Last year was one of the wettest seasons on record here. This, I think, is all... Yeah, look at all that. That's all frog eggs. Like I said, they all do it in one centralized area. Looking around. It's getting deeper in the ditch. Looking to see if they had another area where they laid. Nope. This will be easy. We'll take all these and maybe I will stock those other pools. This is a lot of them right here. These ones, a couple on the top are dead. They probably got hit by these hard frosts, but the ones underwater survived. So I'm going to scoop these up with the net. Oh no, I'm a little bit too late. I knew I needed to build a bigger pond to handle the tadpoles this year. I wish I did it a couple weeks ago, honestly. These ones look all deflated, right? Look, they're literally hatching right now. So we better grab these right now because the ones that got out of there, if it's a wet year, they'll probably survive, like I said. I'm hoping for another wet year. It seems to be pretty wet. Ooh, look, the water's actually steaming because it's so cold. Yeah, let's scoop these up fast. They're actually hatching right now. So everyone, in like a week or two, I'll probably make one of those watermelon videos with the tadpoles. All right, let's scoop them up before they hatch. That was a bit of a workout carrying that bucket back. My arms are already sore from digging. I don't know if you could tell, the bottom of this hole was really hard to dig because it was all shale rock, garbage fill that they put in at the bottom when they must have built the house. Look how small the tadpoles are. They're tiny. So, unfortunately, a lot of them are hatching. So we gotta get them in here now. I probably left maybe, there's more of them there. Look, they're already swimming around. There's still a few in the net. They're just so small, it's hard to get them out. Yeah, see what I mean? They're just not, I think we may have got it. Maybe. Yeah, I think so. All right, so we're just gonna dump a good amount of them into here. All right, and then we're gonna put a little bit of it in other ponds because I don't want to overwhelm the biological cycles in these ponds. We will put a little bit over here, stock this one a little bit. Not too much. They're already in tadpole form, just a little bit. A teeny bit in here. Like I said, birds and stuff, you'd like to pick it off from there, but it's only natural. And I did leave like half of the eggs I showed in the ditch just because I didn't want to overwhelm my ponds. And it looks like that pond, based on the big tadpole surviving, didn't dry up last year, and this year seems like it'll be a wet year again. But who knows, we'll see. You got to worry about the tadpoles overflowing in this one when you do flush it, so I might just drill a hole near the top with another screen with some sheet metal screws right onto that one. I'll do that another day. That one still also needs a ladder in case some animal falls in, but honestly, if it's something like a mouse falls in there, they're going to use that to get out, so it doesn't even need one. All right, to the big pond. We'll dump the remainder in here. I did see frog eggs the other day. Not a ton. Oh, right there. There's a cluster. They laid those themselves. See a whole bunch of them right there. But these ones are still dots. They don't even look like tadpoles yet. A few of them look like they died for whatever reason. Who knows why they died. All right, look at them all. Look at them all. That's all. Probably thousands of tadpoles right there. They're just so tiny. It's so cold out tonight. The net already froze. Well, I'll do an update video once I get the big solar pump working on here in a week or two. And hopefully some feeding videos of the tadpoles once they start getting hungry. Now that there are some in here. Hopefully, now that the weather's going to start getting warmer, hopefully a layer of algae starts forming in here fast. It is full sun, so that's the hope. Don't have to feed them really at first. They're so tiny they eat little particles of grass and stuff, but give it another month. I'm going to have to feed them a lot of food up until about July. That's when all the wood frogs typically leave. And there's not many occupants here except a couple green frogs that will just hop over here and find it during a rainstorm. Thanks for watching, everyone. Have a great night.